All right. Welcome back to Channel 7. This is my channel. Obviously this is my channel because I'm the one sitting in front of the camera and talking. This week, or today, I'm going to be sharing the books that I read in June. I read a pretty decent range, I feel like, or maybe I didn't, and I'm just imagining that I did. Honestly, we'll see. But I read some books, I liked some of them, I didn't like others. Let's get into it. The first book that I completed in the month of June was You Are the Everything by Karen Rivers, and this book was a disappointment. Just right off the bat, I'm gonna say that I was not expecting what I got. Perhaps that's my fault because I misread the synopsis of the book when I picked it up in chapters. I was expecting a plane crash story where we have a really sweet romance kind of cultivated and comes out of that. But what I got was not really that, to be honest. I'm looking for the words to kind of describe this. I feel like I did a decent job in my review, but I'm trying to recall what that was because now that I finished it and I moved on, I tried to forget it because it was that unenjoyable. I was expecting a sweet and kind of blossoming romance to come out of this. Honestly, I thought it was going to be forced proximity. Two survivors of a plane crash are kind of on the side of a mountain and have to make do with what they have. I didn't expect it to be realistic whatsoever, but I didn't really get what I paid for. This book was incredibly confusing, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that our main character was suffering from memory loss issues. And thus, as a reader, I was utterly confused as to what was real or what she was actually imagining or forgetting or whatever. The idea of that is great in theory, but in execution, I think failed miserably. And it also made me incredibly disconnected from Elise, which was the main character of the story, because she didn't really know that much about herself or kept on forgetting what she did and didn't know. I felt like I didn't know her, I couldn't get to know her, and left me utterly, like I said, confused. Second of all, I found this book incredibly boring. I mean, there was a plane crash in this story. I expected to feel quite a bit of emotion. I mean, that's a very tragic event, but I didn't feel any sadness. I didn't feel any joy for any romance or relationship in the story. I was just like, eh. And it was just boring, to be honest. But I gave this 2 stars. There were some lines in the book that I did think were really beautifully written. I'll leave them somewhere on the screen so you can read them. But other than that, it's not worth rereading in my opinion. So yeah, You're the Everything by Karen Rivers. I finally finished the Shadow Falls series. These are just 4 of the books. Oh no, these 3 of the books. These editions have 2 in 1, which is incredibly convenient because it's cheaper and I don't actually have to take up more bookshelf space with 2 separate books. So this is book 3 and 4, and this is book 5. But I finished the Shadow Falls series, and I am very happy to be done with it, to be honest. I have a very bittersweet relationship with the series. I mean, I really enjoyed the setting, I really enjoyed the characters, but ultimately I felt like I was running in circles for 2,000 pages or 2,000 plus pages. I don't even know how many pages I had to read to complete this. Let's try and start from the beginning. I'm not going to talk too much about these books because I'd really be spoiling quite a bit of the plot, but I'll just kind of recap what the series is initially about. It kind of morphs and changes into something else when we get to a midpoint, but at the beginning, Kylie Gallen is having these night terrors, and her parents are going through a divorce. Her grandmother has just passed away. Her mom is just worried that her mental health is not in the best state and that Kylie is kind of becoming a bit of a troubled teenager because she ends up at a party which somehow gets involved with the police or whatever. So she gets sent away to this camp for teens that are troubled, but it really is a camp for teens who have supernatural gifts and powers. And Kylie is even more confused because she's like, I really don't belong here now. Not only am I not troubled, but I have no gifts and I have no powers. And although the camp counselor Holiday keeps telling her, you're definitely gifted, they don't actually know what her gift is. And that's where the central focus of the series comes from. Trying to discover who Kylie is, what her gifts are, and why can't anyone kind of uncover that about her. I enjoyed the characters. They were very, I don't know, young, kind of immature and angsty sometimes, but it was funny. and there was a lot to laugh about in this series. Yeah, the relationships were beautiful. I will say though, the love triangle between Kylie and Derek and Lucas was absolutely ridiculous. It was pure torture. I felt like I was playing whack-a-mole with one of the love interests because I didn't like him at a certain point in the series. I was like, just off with it, please. Like, just choose the right guy. I mean, it was really frustrating for me. Having to read him pop up every 5 seconds in every other scene, I was like, does this man not have work? Does this man not have a job? Like, why do you keep showing your face? And also, Kylie is incredibly indecisive. For a good 3 books, she's going back and forth, and then the 4th and 5th book, she's like kind of settled, but she's still in her head going back and forth between 2 guys, and I'm like, it cannot be that hard. It really can't be that hard. Like, I know who I preferred, but I don't know why you don't know who you prefer. Anyways, needless to say that I felt like I was being dragged in all sorts of directions when it came to that specific romance. However, there are other relationships in the books that are worth reading and falling for, and one of my personal favorite relationships ended up beautifully, so I was really pleased about that. Okay, before I wrap this up, I'm just gonna say the writing in this book is atrocious. Like, it is not good literature, and the further into the series you get, I feel like the worse the writing got, or the more I just kept on seeing like a repetition of phrases, or like there's just a lack of creativity in how to write certain scenes. You know, you read something and you're like, oh, why would you phrase it like that? Like, that doesn't sound good, or I don't know. It just, the writing was not good. I gave book 4 3 stars, and book 5 2 stars. And then I gave the entire series as a whole 3 stars because the first book got a 4 stars, so it kind of bumped up the rating. But yeah, overall, I gave these a 3-star rating. The next book is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and if you watched my last month's reading wrap-up, you know that I read Clap When You Land and With the Fire on High and absolutely loved them, but I loved The Poet X more than anything that I've read by Elizabeth Acevedo. Like, she's honestly incredible, and I wish I had the book. Physical copies of all her books, I will be getting them in the near future, but at this present moment in time, I don't have them. The reason I fell face first into the story is because I felt like I connected deeply with the main character. Her name is Yomada, and although I can't, say that every experience she's had, I've had, there's a lot of experiences that she has had that I could relate to. So Yomada is a young girl. She lives with her mom, her dad, and her brother, and she has just been silenced her whole life, in a sense that nobody is really willing to hear what she has to say, nobody cares to hear what she has to say, nobody wants to answer her questions, and essentially her voice and her feelings have been suppressed in many different ways. And I don't want to give too much away because I feel like it's really nice to go into the story kind of blind and just let the story take you where it does, but I really felt connected to Yomada's character. And I think anyone who's ever felt like they've been silenced or just like their voice hasn't mattered should read the story. I think it would definitely resonate with you. It was beautiful. The writing, exceptional. Elizabeth Acevedo knows how to write a beautiful story. So please read this. I gave The Poet X 5 stars. It's one of the only books I've really given 5 stars this year when I think about it. I think I've given like 5 or 6 books 5 stars, which is kind of terrible because I've seen people do their like mid-year wrap up on TikTok and stuff, and they have like 25 books with 5-star ratings. And I'm sitting here like, bruh, what have I been reading? But anyways, the next book that I'm going to talk to you guys about is The Dark Between Stars by Atticus Poetry, and I'm going to close the door because people were talking in the background. The Dark Between Stars by Atticus Poetry is a poetry story, and I feel kind of weird giving poetry ratings because it is someone telling their story or kind of just pouring themselves out onto paper. But in terms of like rating poetry and in terms of how it makes me feel, I gave this 2 stars. I just didn't connect with it, and I felt like it was kind of stale. Like, I don't want to judge this writer and their experiences and how they write about other people or anything like that, because I mean, this is very personal, but I just didn't enjoy the book. The next book I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and this story was surprisingly incredible. I was shocked, to be honest. I didn't expect to like this that much. I decided that I wanted to kind of dip my toes out of the Jane Austen, Bronte sister realm of reading classics and kind of go for something a little bit more obscure and darker. So I decided to pick up, or well, I didn't pick it up physically, but I will be picking it up again in the future because I enjoyed this. But The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The Picture of Dorian Gray is about a young, beautiful, naive man, I don't know, he's in between, I guess you could say, who sells his soul for permanent beauty. Like, essentially what the premise of the story is about. Again, this is a story that is best read without too much description, so I'm gonna really leave the plot at that. He sells his soul for permanent beauty. Overall, the story is about vanity, treachery, and just cruelty. It was beautifully written, and I think some of the ideas that are proposed by like Henry and Basil and Dorian would make for excellent essay points. I don't know if people read these in their English class, but they definitely should be, because I was thinking of all the essays that I could write with this one book as I was reading it. I gave this book 3.5 stars, which is a pretty solid rating in my opinion. The next book that I completed in the month of June was Ace of Spades by Farida Abikeyimide, and oh my gosh, this book was a thrill. This has been kind of sold or marketed as Gossip Girl meets Get Out, and I threw in that little Pretty Little Liars detail because I totally feel like it's Pretty Little Liars as well. And it's about two main characters, Chiamaka and Devon, or Devon. I always say Devon, but it could be Devon as well. Chiamaka is a science whiz. She has aspirations to go to Yale, and she's just that like boss ass kind of girl. And Devon is more of a wallflower. He's into music, the arts, and he likes to just keep to himself. But at the beginning of the year, Chiamaka is elected head prefect and Devon is elected prefect. He's quite shocked. Chiamaka expected it because, hello, she's queen bee, you know? But things start going south when an anonymous texter under the alias of Ace starts exposing their secrets in mass text to the entire school. Pictures, text messages, videos that they didn't know that anybody had or didn't want anyone to see. Secrets that they didn't want anyone to find out, and secrets that could destroy their entire life, not just their high school career. This was thrilling. Like, just trying to figure out what was going on. I mean, I really could not put this book down. And when I finally figured out some stuff, I was shocked, to say the least. Like, absolutely horrified. Like, this is heavy. There's some stuff in here that's like, what on earth? I did not even think that was, I don't know. It's crazy, guys. It really is. But it's fast-paced and it's alarming, so it's totally worth reading. I gave it a 4.5 stars because it was solid. I'm very happy that this turned out as beautifully as I expected it. The next book I read was Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Our main character, Jam, has been taught that there are no longer monsters in Lucille. However, when a monster kind of tears its way out of her mother's painting and comes to life, she starts to question what she's been told. And not only is this monster not really monstrous, it seems to be looking for monsters in Lucille, hidden monsters, at the house of her best friend, Redemption. And essentially Jam goes on a quest with this monster that has come out of her mother's painting to figure out what is lurking in the background of Redemption's house. I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars for that reason. But yeah, Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Alright, we've finally come to the end of my June reads and finishing off with The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, who is the author of To All the Boys I've Loved Before, if you did not know. And this book was absolutely breathtaking. Like, I am in love, truly in love with the story. I love it way more than I loved To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I feel so, I don't know, like entranced with this plot and with the characters and with everything that's going on in the life of our main character, Belly. Every summer, Belly and her brother and her mom drive down to Cousins Beach and spend the time with her mom's best friend, Susanna, and her two sons, Jeremiah and Conrad. And ever since Belly was young, she has known that she's been absolutely in love with Conrad, which is just a little sweet aspect of the story. But more than that, Belly has finally turned to her pretty, and this summer she feels like things are going to be different. And in fact, they are different in many ways, in great ways, but also in very sad and unfortunate ways. I will say that I am a huge fan of beach books. I just love that I can smell the ocean and the salty air and feel the sand on my toes when I'm reading a book. Like, if I'm that immersed in a story, you know it's good. So I gave this 5 stars, which is pretty great. That's solid. I feel like, again, I haven't really been giving books 5 stars, so me being able to give this 5 stars was a breath of fresh air for me. Those are the books that I read in June. If you've read any of these and enjoyed them, let me know. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video.